I'm Ella Winters. And when I crawled out of a dumpster behind a condemned mansion in St. Augustine, Florida, I wasn't looking for salvation. I was digging for a broken lamp I could flip on Facebook Marketplace for $15. Then I heard heels, sharp, expensive ones clicking behind me. "Excuse me, are you Ella Winters?" I turned, filthy, bleeding from a scratch on my wrist, and stared up at a woman who looked like she belonged on the cover of Forbes. "Yes," I mumbled. She smiled. "My name is Bianca Delacroix. I'm an attorney. Your great uncle Everett just passed. He's left you everything: his penthouse in Tribeca, his vintage car collection, and a $47 million estate." My mouth opened. Nothing came out. "But," she added, "there's one condition." Just 3 months earlier, I was a married woman in Fort Myers, Florida. I had a mortgage, a dog, a design degree I'd never used, and a husband who convinced me I didn't need to. His name was Grant Lawson, charismatic, successful, and cruel in the quietest ways. We met when I was 22. I had just won a national competition for my eco-conscious housing design. Uncle Everett had flown me to New York to celebrate. That's when Grant swooped in. He told me I was brilliant, magnetic, and should be on magazine covers. 6 months later, I was married. 8 months in, Everett stopped speaking to me. He called me one morning, voice tight. "That man doesn't love your brilliance, Ella. He's afraid of it. He's building you a pretty cage." I hung up on him, furious, naive, convinced I knew better. For the next decade, I disappeared inside a house I never designed, hosting dinners for Grant's clients and pretending I didn't miss the drafting table. Then came the affair with his 24-year-old assistant, Zara. The divorce was vicious. Grant's family paid for a legal team that crushed me in court. Our prenup, which I'd signed in blind devotion, stripped me of everything. I walked away with a car that barely ran, 2 suitcases, and humiliation burned into my skin. "You'll never get hired again," Grant had whispered at our last meeting. "Nobody wants a broke woman with a useless degree." He was right. For 3 months, I lived out of that car, scavenging furniture behind foreclosed homes and flipping what I could fix. A few buyers recognized me. One even messaged, "Didn't your husband own a yacht?" Back in the Mercedes, Bianca handed me a folder thick with papers. "Your uncle never removed you from the will," she said. "You were always his sole heir. But there is a clause. You must take over as CEO of Winters Plus Co. Architecture in Manhattan within 30 days, and stay for at least a year. If not, everything goes to the State Historical Society." I laughed bitterly. "I haven't drawn a paid design since college," Bianca shrugged. "Maybe that's why he's giving you the chance." The penthouse in Tribeca looked like it had been staged for Architectural Digest. Clean, modern, with splashes of industrial charm. I stood in the entryway, still in my dumpster-stained clothes, when an older woman stepped out from the kitchen. "Ava," she said, shaking flour from her hands. "I used to make you pancakes when your parents died. I'm Ava, the housekeeper. Everett left everything just the way you remembered it." She guided me to the top floor, a studio built just for me. "He started this 5 years ago," she said softly. "Said you'd come home one day." I nearly collapsed. The studio was pristine, my winning college sketch still pinned on the wall. The boardroom at Winters Plus Co. smelled like tension. The senior partners sat in crisp suits, all men except one. The chairman, Preston Barrick, sneered as he scanned the paperwork. "With all due respect, this isn't a feel-good film. Miss Winters has no experience running a firm. We can't hand over the legacy Everett built to someone who disappeared for a decade." I slid a notebook across the table, one of the 17 I'd filled in secret during my marriage. "That's a low-impact housing complex designed for hurricane recovery zones," I said. "I built that while my husband was cheating on me in Mykonos. There's 16 more where that came from." One woman, Daria Royce, leaned forward. "And what makes you think you can lead us?" "Because I'm not trying to play God," I said. "I'm here to bring architecture back to the people, and if you don't want to be part of that, don't stand in my way." 3 weeks in, sabotage hit. The night before I was to present a green tech campus proposal to a billionaire client, my renderings vanished. My files were corrupted. My laptop missing. I found it an hour before the pitch on the floor of the restroom. Files gone. I walked into that meeting with nothing but markers, paper, and rage. "Mr. Easton," I said calmly, "let me show you the building I've been dreaming about for 10 years. I sketched as I spoke. Solar-optimized glass, native green roofing, flood-resilient elevation. The building breathed. He signed the deal before lunch. Later, Ava handed me a small black notebook from Everett's safe. Inside were letters, plans, memories he'd known about Grant, about the affair, about my designs in hiding. And something else, he'd hired a private investigator before he died. Inside the final pages, a photo, Grant, Preston Barrick, and Zara, toasting over what looked like signed property documents. A note in Everett's writing. Your ex-husband helped Preston embezzle firm assets during the merger. He thought I'd never find out. I stared at the photo like it might burst into flames. Grant and Preston, old golf buddies. Of course, and the merger. That had been Everett's final project before his health declined. Bianca confirmed it. Your uncle suspected internal theft. He just didn't have proof yet. But I did now. I called an emergency board meeting the next morning. As they filed in, sipping coffee and sneering at my clipboard, I turned on the projector. The first slide, the photo of Grant, Preston, and Zara. This was taken 3 weeks before Uncle Everett passed. The woman in the photo is Zara Belmont, my ex-husband's mistress. The man on the right is Preston Barrick, your chairman. A silence fell heavy and fast. They signed over a $12 million land parcel that was supposed to be protected under our Community Preservation Division. Sold it through a shell company connected to Grant's investment firm in Tampa. Preston paled. You're bluffing? No, I said, flipping through pages. The deed transfer, the wire logs, and email from your personal account discussing how Everett's illness is convenient. Bianca stood beside me, crisp and lethal in her tone. Preston Barrick, you're under formal investigation for corporate fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy to defraud a charitable trust. The boardroom exploded. With Preston arrested, control shifted overnight. Daria was named interim CFO. I installed a forensic accounting team, and I had one last loose end, Grant. I flew to Tampa alone, wearing a $40 thrifted blazer and steel in my chest. His office receptionist did a double take when I walked in. Tell Grant his ex-wife is here, I said. When he emerged, his jaw locked in place. Ella, what the hell are you doing here? I tossed the folder on his desk. You stole from my family. That $12 million land parcel you flipped, it's under federal audit. And your girlfriend Zara, she's cooperating. His face went from smug to sick. You'll lose your license, your freedom, and your golden boy image. But I'm not here for revenge, Grant. I'm here to offer a deal. He blinked. A deal? You plead guilty, give up your shares in the firm you started with Preston, and you get minimum sentencing. Try to fight and I release the full tapes. He tried to laugh it off. Tapes you don't have. I do. Your girlfriend talks in her sleep, and your office had cameras. The color drained from his face. Back in Manhattan, I climbed to the rooftop studio. Ava handed me a small wooden box, Everett's final letter. Ella, this city will test you. These men will try to break you, but you were forged in fire. You just forgot. I didn't choose you for legacy. I chose you for justice. And if you're reading this, you've already won. Inside the box, my old architecture school pin and a check made out to Winters Foundation for Design Equity $30 million. With it, we launched the Winters Fellowship, a full-ride program for underrepresented architects. We hired survivors, single mothers, formerly incarcerated artists. People Grant would have laughed at. 3 months later, I received an invitation in the mail. From Zara. I know you hate me, I know what I helped them do. But I was just 24, scared, stupid, and greedy. I've left Grant. I want to make this right. Please let me build something real with you. She attached a design, an eco-housing unit for survivors of domestic abuse. It was brilliant. I showed it to Daria. Should we consider her for the foundation? Daria looked at me. You're the CEO, Ella. What do you think? I took a long breath. Let's give her a shot, but we start her where I started, dumpster duty. We both laughed. Zara arrived 2 weeks later, head down, sleeves rolled up. Gone was the polished intern with perfect lipstick and expensive shoes. In her place stood a woman haunted, but hungry to rebuild. I assigned her to our Baltimore site, a low-income housing project led by Emma Royce, one of our top Winters Fellows. Emma wasn't thrilled. She slept with your husband, she said bluntly. I know, I replied. And if I'd been punished for every stupid thing I did at 24, I'd still be scrubbing toilets at Grant's Country Club. Emma nodded slowly. Fine, but she answers to me. Zara didn't complain once. She worked 16-hour shifts, ate lunch on the construction steps, and when a pipe burst during a storm, she stayed behind and helped rip up the ruined drywall herself. No cameras, no applause. By month 3, her sketches were on our design board. Meanwhile, Winters Plus Co. was thriving, but not without resistance. A new client emerged from Texas, a real estate mogul named Declan Nash. Oil money, real estate ego, and a whole lot of boys' club charm. He wanted us to design an exclusive golf resort on a protected wetland. I refused. He didn't take it well. "Listen, sweetheart," he said, leaning across the table. "Men built this industry. Women decorate it. Don't mistake your charity cases for power." I smiled. "That's cute, but you know what's cuter? Federal conservation law." 2 days later, Nash launched a smear campaign, online articles calling Winters Plus Co. fiscally irresponsible, led by an unqualified CEO, and relying on nepotism. I tracked the IPS, his PR firm. I called Bianca. She grinned. "Time for a little media justice." We leaked our Baltimore build to the press, photos of Zara and Emma elbow-deep in blueprints, working with mothers who'd once lived in their cars. The story went viral. Winters Plus Co. wasn't building luxury. We were rebuilding lives. The backlash against Nash was swift. His permits for another project in Arizona were revoked. He sued for defamation. He lost. Twice. Then came the shock. During a budget review meeting, Daria handed me an envelope. "We found this in Everett's storage unit. It's about your parents." My hands trembled. Inside were letters, dozens, from my father to Everett. "Please take care of her," one read. "We're being threatened by Grant's father. He wants us to hand her over or lose everything." Another read. "I won't let her grow up in that world. We're leaving Florida tomorrow." And one final note from Everett to himself. "I should have told her. That family destroyed her parents, and now history repeated itself." I stood frozen. My ex-husband's family didn't just ruin my adult life. They were responsible for my parents' death. The next day, I boarded a flight to Palm Beach, Florida, where Grant's father, Emmett Lawson, still lived in a sprawling estate paid for by trust funds and old money silence. He answered the door himself. He hadn't changed much, still smug, still dressed like a Southern senator. "Ella," he said, voice oily, "to what do I owe the honor?" "You threatened my parents," I said flatly. "Drove them out of the state. I have the letters." He didn't even blink. "And you ruined their business. They died in a crash fleeing your lawyers. You murdered them." He gave a thin smile. "They made a choice, just like you did when you married my son. You were a poor girl with talent. I knew you'd outgrow Grant, just like your mother outgrew my firm." I wanted to punch him. Instead, I handed him a letter. "You'll be getting a subpoena. Winters Plus Co. now has the resources to reopen everything. Every stolen patent, every silenced whistleblower, every life you ruined." He chuckled. "You think the court cares about 20-year-old business deals?" "No," I said, turning to leave. "But the internet does, and so does the IRS." Back in Manhattan, I handed the letters to Bianca. "We're filing civil suits against Grant's family business, 3 shell firms they used to bury my parents' designs, and the law office that notarized those blackmail documents." Bianca raised her eyebrows. "You're ready for this war?" I nodded. "I've been at war since I was 10. I just didn't know who the enemy was." 6 months later, the fallout was biblical. Emmett Lawson was indicted on multiple counts of fraud, tax evasion, and conspiracy. Grant's investment firm collapsed under SEC investigation. Preston Barrick's plea deal exposed even more players in the scheme: judges, developers, zoning officials. Every brick of their empire crumbled. And then something unexpected happened. Zara walked into my office holding an envelope. "I'm pregnant," she whispered. "Grant's." She looked terrified. "I don't want anything from him. I don't know what to do." I took a breath. "It means you survived." In July, we opened the Winters Center for Architectural Justice, a studio, school, and legal clinic offering design equity, business training, and legal aid for young designers. Emma was now lead architect on a shelter rebuild in Oakland. Zara led a team designing modular housing for hurricane survivors. Daria became partner. And me. I sat in my rooftop studio, drafting plans for the home I'd one day build on land my parents once dreamed of owning. Then Jacob walked in. Jacob, Everett's former apprentice. Quiet, brilliant, and impossibly patient. He knelt, opened a small velvet box, but there was no ring. Instead, a miniature model of a community library made of sustainable glass and recycled steel. "You designed this," he said. "I just brought it to life. Will you marry me and keep building?" I laughed through tears. "Yes." The wedding took place on the rooftop of the Winters Center, beneath a canopy of reclaimed wood beams and native Florida flowers, designed by our first class of interns. The guest list included everyone who helped me rise again: Emma, Zara, Daria, Ava, and even the construction crew from Baltimore who flew in with paint still on their boots. Ava walked me down the aisle. "Jacob's vows were short but carved straight into my soul. Ella, the world tried to bury you, but you were never dead, you were just planting roots. I promised to protect those roots, to grow beside you, and to never, ever ask you to be less than everything you are." Mine were harder. Not because I didn't know what to say, but because for the first time, I didn't need to prove anything. "Jacob," I said, voice trembling, "I spent 10 years trying to be small enough to fit inside someone else's dream. Then I remembered I was born to build. And you never once tried to hold the hammer for me. You just stood beside me while I nailed every beam into place. I love you." Fiercely, bravely. Forever. 3 months after the wedding, I stood at the very spot where it all began, behind that same condemned mansion in St. Augustine. Except now, the land was ours. We broke ground on a public library, free community studio, and maker space, named after my parents, the Sarah and Marcus Winters Center for Creative Futures. Emma ran the design team. Zara taught a summer class. Daria chaired our board. And I walked through the building in steel-toed boots and a pencil behind my ear, listening to the echoes of children laughing as they built their first models from cardboard and dreams. A journalist once asked me, "How did you survive losing everything?" I told her the truth. I didn't lose anything. I remembered who I was. If you've ever been told you're too much, too late, or too broken, drop a comment and share your story. Like and subscribe, because I promise, your comeback is just getting started. You are already everything you need to be. You just need to remember.